Well, good afternoon, friends. Welcome once again to Syracuse Basketball Postgame, presented by Krause Health. We're live here on the Syracuse Orange Basketball Facebook page, live on Syracuse Orange Sports on YouTube as well. It's been a minute since we got together to talk some Syracuse basketball, but we're going to be getting together a lot. This was the start of 5 games in 10 days for Syracuse, and they start off that stretch with a 76-56 win over Boston College. The Orange improved to 14-12 on the season, 8-7 in ACC play. Big one for Syracuse today at the Dome, 20-point win, a game they did not trail at all against Boston College, and they had a week off prior to this, lost to Virginia Tech last week, got that week off built into the schedule here, but man, it is going to get hot and heavy for the Orange going forward here. They play this one today, got it in the books, as Alan notes. A good afternoon for the Orange and a good afternoon to you, sir. Thinking that Syracuse got the things regrouped, and Michael jumping in there saying good to have a win. So we'll highlight your comments as we go here, guys. Keep those coming and talk amongst yourselves there in the comments as well. Win today. Host Georgia Tech Monday. Go to Notre Dame on Wednesday. Host a little team called Duke a week from today at the Carrier Dome. Turn around and play North Carolina next Monday. That is the insane stretch of games that Syracuse has upcoming. Basically a game every other day. 3 of those first 4 are at home, mixed in with that trip to Notre Dame, a team that Boston College actually gave a lot of trouble to on Wednesday night. But that Boston College team did not show up today at the Dome. They had a little bit of a run in the second half, couple 8-0, 6-0 spurts, but never really threatened Syracuse in this one. So nice to see the Orange get an easy win here after some intense games for this team down the stretch here, and an intense stretch of the schedule coming. So all told, Buddy Boeheim and Cole Swider lead Syracuse with 18 points apiece. Buddy Boeheim added a career-high 5 steals in this game. We'll go over the full numbers here in a moment, but Syracuse pretty impressive defensively in this one. Joe Girard with 16 points, including a 4 of 8 stretch from three-point range. Jimmy Boeheim with a double-double today for the Orange, his 4th of the season there, 13-10 for him. I'll tell you what, it was great to see Barama Sidibe play 18 minutes in this game. Coming in, he had played a total of 8 minutes this season, or make that 11 minutes this season. He played a few minutes in the Virginia Tech game, but picked up some quick fouls and had to go back to the bench. Frank Anselm actually got into a tad bit of foul trouble and wasn't really the same player that he was in the Virginia Tech game. So Barama was active. He was blocking shots. He was charging the basket, grabbing 4 rebounds in this game. 2 blocks, 2 steals. I mean, you got to feel good about that. That kid has gone through so much. I almost hesitate to say kid. He's been around this team, it feels like, for 10 years, right? But comes back for that extra year and has just struggled to recover from injury. But he looked active. He looked energetic. Serious bench minutes today. And you know what? They needed him because Frank Anselm hit a little bit of a rough patch. He did play 19 minutes. Frank had 3 points, 3 rebounds, but also had 3 fouls in this game. So it was great to see the spark from Barama Sidibe. You know, Benny Williams got 8 minutes off the bench, everybody's favorite bench guy, right? 3 points, 2 rebounds. You could see some offensive struggles from Benny, but he got some minutes in there. I think Symir Torrance, I mean, you look at the numbers and it feels like he just had much more than this, but in 17 minutes, he dishes out 5 assists. The way he ran that offense, guys, it felt like 10. So he gives Syracuse a quality boost. Even everybody's favorite Scranton native on the roster, Patty Casey, right? Who's that? Jerry McNamara? I'll have to look that up. He's from Scranton too. All right. We'll have to, thanks for the fact check there. But Patty, I guess the second favorite Scranton native on the roster. He gets in and has a drive and a foul, puts up 3 points in this game. So the bench giving Syracuse some quality minutes, but certainly pretty much every starter with the exception of Frank, who's trying to do what he can to supplement what Syracuse is missing with Jesse Edwards. Doing it for the Orange today. So all told, Syracuse shot 50% and even 50% in this one, 30 of 59. BC, you know, they're the worst shooting team in the ACC, and you just couldn't lose to a team like that, given their offensive struggles. Mind you, they scored 95 against Notre Dame Wednesday, 5 of 28 from three-point range. That's 17%, whereas the Orange were 10 of 23. That's 43% from three-point range. Syracuse out-rebounded by BC, 40-35. The Eagles had a real offensive, a rebounding spurt, in the second half. They out-rebounded Syracuse on the offensive end, 14-6, but Syracuse ultimately overcame that. The Orange dished out 15 assists. Huge swing in Syracuse's favor here. 23 points off turnovers, and 17 of those came in the first half. Now, BC didn't end up with 17 points off turnovers. Both teams double digits in steals. So, the Orange had some turnover issues today that they can't carry over into some of these bigger games that are just up ahead in the schedule. But really, it was easy pickings for Syracuse at the Dome. Not a lot to complain about at this point for Syracuse. But let's see what you guys are saying here in the comments. Always appreciate you coming by, being a part of the show. A very windy day here in central New York. Hope the weather's good where you guys are today. Dale says, good D for the Orange today. Offense only stalled out when they didn't move the ball, but picked right back up. Go Q's. Jimmy says, took care of business and on to the next one. And the next one comes pretty quick, Monday night at the Dome against Georgia Tech. Remember, that's a rescheduled game. They were supposed to play Georgia Tech back in December. That game got rescheduled for Monday. It's like that one extra game Syracuse didn't need on the schedule. Georgia Tech's the worst team in the ACC, so you don't want to stub your toe there in that game. But, they had to make it up sometime, and that was really the only time they could do it. Mickey's checking in from Kendall, New York, home of the great Roosevelt Bowie. Thanks for doing that, Mickey. We appreciate that. Mike jumps in, our guy from El Paso, and says, looked like a good all-around game using the bench. Going to need that extra game Monday night to continue to get both centers ready for the run to the ACC tournament. We talked about how Barama got some quality minutes today. Lynn checking in from Jupiter, Florida. Hope it's not as windy and cold down there as it is here. Hard day is coming. Glad they could get some confidence without Jesse Edwards. They need to know that they can do that and give that team some momentum. Glad to see Sidibe after years of non-play. Good to see bench play. Syracuse needs to breathe. Last Boston College game, glad they won. Yeah, so the Orange get the season sweep over Boston College. Merritt jumps in to say Michael Carter-Williams sat his freshman year, and you know the rest. Benny is A-OK, right, Axe? It was interesting because Michael Carter-Williams, I think that's what you're referring to, Merritt. Our friend Mike Curtis here on syracuse.com caught up with Michael Carter-Williams this week, and it was interesting to hear MCW give Benny some advice about kind of riding out that freshman year, have that breakout when he gets more opportunities. Next year, you can still see the struggles on offense for Benny. I think that's what's holding him back here into one play where he kind of tried to glide through the lane, fell down, just not that comfortable on the offensive end around the basket. Yeah, it's got to get a little bigger. He's certainly athletic, but he's got to put a little bulk on, and I think we'll see Benny break out at some point next year. Maybe he gets a little more time to do that here in these next 5 games down the stretch, but I could see why there was that hesitancy now from Boeheim's part to really give him bigger minutes than that, because he needs some sort of offensive contribution from him, and he just doesn't look like he's ready to do that at this point. But I think big things are coming from him down the stretch. Christian says Symir gives Syracuse something no one else has. Wish that Boeheim would rotate the 3 guards. Today, there was an even rotation there. I mean, Girard was hitting the deep threes, had a couple of really bad passes early in this game, had consecutive possessions where he just gave the ball away, and there was a good stretch of this first half before Syracuse started to pull away where it was close. It was a choppy first 10 minutes of the game. Syracuse had been off for a week, so maybe expected a little rust on this part. But, yeah, Symir came in and just gave that jolt to the offense that Syracuse needed. And as we've kind of talked about before with Joe, he's either running the offense or he is the offense. So it was Symir who certainly ran the offense better. We gave you the numbers there, 5 assists in 17 minutes, felt like 10 in that case. And it's good to have that mix-up and that 3-guard lineup when you can, and that change of pace that Symir brings to you, because sometimes Joe can do that, but certainly Joe made up for it on the offensive end with 16 points. In this game, Merritt adding this, Sidibe, if you can give us that, Syracuse will be good. Used to having low-scoring centers, just play good D. And, look, that's what they're missing without Jesse right now. It got to the point where they were comfortable running the offense through Jesse, and that's not something you've seen a lot with Syracuse players, in recent years. Rakeem Christmas was a big player for this team, and that was a year they weren't even going to make the tournament. It was a self-inflicted take out of the tournament, if you will, self-ban. Christmas man, I can't remember a player that, I mean, that team was all him, right? So that offense, that entire team basically ran through him. Certainly we've seen some centers. Yeah, Fab Mello, I think, remember, was all Big East and a player that, more of an all-around game than someone you run the offense through, because those teams certainly had a lot of talent around him there. Renziano Waku obviously comes to mind, but Jesse got to the point where Gerard could get him in the pick and roll. They were comfortable running the offense through him, not like incidentally off rebounds and just kind of picking up baskets here and there. And then, of course, when Jesse went down, they had to go back to what they are, a perimeter-oriented team that gets what it can out of the paint, gets what it can. And Jimmy Boeheim provided that today. A double-double, his fourth of the season. Syracuse is a perimeter-oriented team, but Cole Swider was even getting inside today. Buddy Boeheim, we mentioned the defensive prowess from Buddy today. Wasn't all three-pointers from Buddy. He got inside the three-point line a little bit today. So against a bad team like Boston College, Syracuse took advantage of that. BC does have a couple of post guys. Remember last time, Quentin Post for BC had 14 points and 14 rebounds. Certainly not as effective today. Post in 24 minutes at 10 points and 7 rebounds. I mean, that's pretty good. But the big guy for BC today was Karnick. He had 11 points and 11 rebounds. But, even with a bit of a post presence, BC is such a bad offensive team that they just certainly could not keep up with Syracuse today. Even when there were times the Syracuse offense, believe it or not, sputtered in this game, given the 20-point deficit and some of the things we're talking about, 4 guys in double figures. I think a better team would have taken advantage of that drought, frankly. And you go back to the Virginia Tech game a week ago, Syracuse went a 6-minute stretch there at the end of the game and didn't score, short of a Cole Swider bucket with like 30 seconds to go. Cost them the game. Virginia Tech, a much better team overall. They're second best team in the country shooting threes, and they didn't even shoot well in that game from three-point range. I think they were 8 of 27, something like that. But they ran a masterclass on how to break down the zone with Justin Mutz at the free throw line there at the high point, breaking down, taking advantage of the backdoor. BC, just a disorganized team all over the place, just chucking it up, bad shooting team. And I didn't watch that game Wednesday night, but man, how the heck did that team score 95 points? I know it went to overtime, but even that, how'd they score 95 points against Notre Dame? That's just insane to me, but that's sports, friends. Tom jumps in and says, excellent win, tough stretch over the next 9 days. Hope coach can get 1,000 wins again and finish 500 or better. Question, how is next season's recruiting class looking? Let's go. All the best from Cooperstown. Well, it's a top 20, top 25 class, Tom. Chris Bunch is the leader there. He's a top 100 player. Peter Carey was at the Dome today. He's a 6'11 center that's in that class. Justin Taylor comes in, 6'6 guy, basically a plug-and-play guy for Buddy Boeheim. Shooter, very similar game to Buddy at this point. Kadir Copeland, who was actually at IMG with Justin Taylor, scorer, guard, somebody that – and Jim Boeheim said recently on his radio show, Tom, that 3 or 4 freshmen could start, and all of them are going to play next year. And you can't treat all those guys like Benny Williams. So it's going to be interesting to see how Jim handles a pretty young roster next year, depending on who comes back. Does Cole decide to come back? Buddy Boeheim has pretty much indicated he's not coming back. Jimmy has applied for that extra year of eligibility, but I don't think he's going to use it, even if he gets it, just kind of a want-to-know type of situation. But, maybe we see him come back. We know Gerard's back. We know Symir's back, right? You never know what the transfer portal will bring in and what the transfer portal will ship out for Syracuse. But that class is looking pretty good. It looks like a couple of immediate contributors on the way next year. Lori says 70 degrees in Sacramento. Good play, good bench play. They seem to share the ball when they're winning instead of the hero savior ball when they are losing. That's a good point there, Lori. I want to look up something that I did not mention earlier, because Syracuse's assist rate, they had 15 assists today. So in that 4-game winning streak prior to losing to Virginia Tech and in this game, they've been right around there in assists. When Syracuse is in single-digit assists, it's that hero ball you were talking about there. Now, Jim Boeheim said that assists are an overrated stat against his team, given the zone and how you have to move the ball. I don't think it's overrated when you have 15 assists on how many field goals? Let's check it out here. Pretty much half your buckets were assisted today. You want to move the ball when you can. I always think that's a good thing. I'll slightly disagree with the coach on that one. David with an interesting question. Has Buddy ever dunked? He could have today, but didn't. You know what, David? I think he has, but man, it's been like a handful of times, if in fact it's happened. I don't recall off the top of my head a particular game where we saw it happen. I know he can do it. I'm certainly, now I'm really thinking about that one. You know who would know that? Waters. Mike Waters would know that like off the top of his head, but I cannot recall a game in which he did. I know he probably has a couple of times, but interesting question there. You know who had the most surprising dunk I've ever seen in my life? And I knew he could dunk, but let's go back old school. Syracuse-Georgetown. I believe it was 89, if I'm not mistaken. It's Sherman Douglas's last game at the Carrier Dome. And he goes down the court and throws back not only a dunk, but a reverse dunk. And it was just so stunning because Sherman never dunked. I mean, obviously, at one point he held the NCAA's assist record, right? And he was just a distributor. They called him the general, ran the offense. Was certainly a great player, but you just never saw that guy dunk. And then he, caps his Syracuse career with a reverse jam in the Dome against Georgetown. That's when Syracuse-Georgetown was always the last game of the year. Traditionally, CBS would broadcast the game. It was a huge deal. And to see Sherm do that, I'll never forget that. So we'll have to do a special topic about surprising guys that dunked. Dale with a good one here. Johnny Flynn's dunk against Rutgers. Poor Mike Rosario. That was, man. And you see Johnny Flynn, that's not a guy you think could dunk with authority, but he could get up there and he could throw it down at like any, 6'10" big guy can at this point. So fun topic there. Great dunks in Syracuse history. Greg brings up Sidibe. Man, if he can keep this up, what a spark that's going to be, because you get more than one spark off the bench. Symir is the primary guy that does that. Frank's going to need some backup. Today was a primary example of that. The Virginia Tech game, Frank had 15 rebounds. He held his own, played 37 minutes, played great in that game, gave Syracuse, it's not the same what Jesse brings you, but you'll take that every time. Today got into a little bit of foul trouble. Barama comes in, and Jim was smart to keep him in. Energy, chasing down rebounds. The one block shot that Barama had, if you didn't see it in this game, comes from one side of the court to the other. Charges towards the Syracuse bench, blocks, I forget who it was he blocked for BC, and the bench went wild because they know what this guy's been through and the injuries he's tried to overcome and what they've been seeing in practice. The crowd appreciated it at the Dome. I'm sure you guys appreciated it watching it at home, and it's just, man, even in this final stretch of games, no matter where Syracuse finishes at this point, for him to at least get something out of this year. You don't want a guy to come back and then not get to play. Injury you have to be careful with. Certainly he's got an injury history, but he was great today. The energy he got off the bench was huge, and Syracuse is going to need it. Jesse is not coming back this year, right? So you need, a complement at center there. You guys were talking about rotating the guards. They're going to need Barama to be able to come in and do exactly what he did today. Gave him 18 minutes and put up numbers, 4 rebounds, the block shot we mentioned, even scored a couple of times around the basket. So good stuff there. And hopefully not only can he keep that up because Syracuse needs it, but we want to see him keep it up because, we're happy for that kid that he came back and is getting something out of that final year. Jimmy jumps in, CJ on Porter in the Big East tournament. That was a good one. Yep. Last Syracuse-Georgetown matchup in Big East Tournament 2013. Certainly a great one there. That was the backdrop of the ESPN 30 for 30 on the Big East, Requiem for the Big East. So they certainly did the history, but that game was the backdrop of that 30 for 30. And just same guy that Ezra Elliman who did the OJ 30 for 30, which was amazing for ESPN, right? So now all these dunks are going to come flooding back in my head. You guys are jumping in there with them too. But that was certainly a good one, right? Let's see. A couple more comments from you guys here as we chat here on a Saturday afternoon, getting ready for a very, very busy stretch of games upcoming for Syracuse. Blake says it's a good week to measure what they can do in the ACC tournament. That's a great point there, Blake. And look, these guys have played AAU ball when you're playing 3 or 4 games in a day. They played, that didn't go well for Syracuse, but at least they know they can play 3 games in a row, battle for Atlantis. This is a stretch of 5 games in 10 days. And look, if you're going to gut it out and do some damage and stay in that conversation for the postseason, whatever postseason it's going to be, you're going to have to win 3 or 4 in a row. It's as simple as that. Now, as it stands right now, Syracuse would play, I believe, Florida State on Wednesday in the 8-9 game in the ACC tournament. You definitely want to start on Wednesday. You don't want to be a Tuesday team. And you can beat Florida State. That's a team Syracuse can beat because they did beat them earlier this year. You just want to avoid Duke. You want to avoid certain teams, pick up some momentum. They certainly have the offensive prowess to do it. But, I mean, they're going to have to win the ACC tournament to get in the NCAA tournament. So the question is, can they win 4 in a row? That's a tough ask for this team, given the defense has been better. I saw some defensive improvement today. I mean, Boston College is a hard thing to judge against there because they're so bad offensively and they chuck up a lot of bricks, right? But this is at least, per your point, Blake, the opportunity for Syracuse to show what they can do, playing a lot of games in a short period of time. Alan drops it in there. We got lacrosse tomorrow. What a day of lacrosse. I can't wait to see this. You got Syracuse playing #1 Maryland, Gary Gates' jersey getting retired. Roy Simmons Jr., the legend, gets his name in the Ring of Honor. Women's team plays Stony Brook. That's a top 5 matchup. Those are 2 teams that love to go up and down the field, high scoring, intense teams. Katie Rowan gets her jersey retired. It's going to be a great, great day of lacrosse at the Dome tomorrow. So I know that I don't think it's on TV, unfortunately, either one of those games. Got to get ACC Network Extra to check that out. We'll have coverage here on syracuse.com. I'm going to be there providing some live updates. So follow along tomorrow. It's our first Sunday without football. So just flip the switch and watch some lacrosse. It's going to be a great day at the Dome tomorrow. Let's see. Michael says, and we'll end on this note, do we have to win the ACC tournament to get in? Is there another path? I think they have to win the ACC tournament. I really do. They don't have enough quad 1 wins, even if they pick up a couple here down the stretch. Notre Dame, Duke, obviously, North Carolina, although North Carolina is fading at this point. Miami may end up being a quad 1 win at this point, but I absolutely think they got to win the ACC tournament. Syracuse just doesn't have the resume. They don't have they have literally no non-conference wins of note. They're 0-6 in quad 1 games. They have got to win the ACC tournament. They've got to get the automatic bid. As Mark notes here, it's 4 straight or it's NIT. I think it's as simple as that. Now, they did waive the rule about the NIT that you can be below 500 and get in. I think you have to get some sort of exception. And look, the NIT would take Syracuse no matter what their record is. I think you want a brand name like Syracuse in there, but they have changed that rule. You do not have to be above 500 to get in if that's in fact where Syracuse finishes. But the Fighting 500s are now 2 games above 500 at 14-12, 8-7 in ACC play after this win. So what do you say we end it there for today, guys? But we'll be right back at it Monday night, Syracuse and Georgia Tech on these same bad times, same bad channels, Syracuse Orange Sports on YouTube, Syracuse Orange Basketball Facebook page. If you do miss the show or any of our post-game shows, we put the YouTube clip on our Twitter feed. It's embedded on my recap on syracuse.com. It automatically embeds on Facebook, so you can come back to the Facebook page here and watch anytime you want on demand. So we'll meet again on Monday night after the Orange take on the Yellow Jackets. A win today for Syracuse, 76-56 over Boston College. This has been Syracuse Basketball Postgame presented by Krause Health. You guys have a great rest of your weekend.